There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, and they are all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross with our song. Let us span another canyon, let us right another wrong. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're up and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're up and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. We will tell them building bridges and be off.
Building bridges.
We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Thank you, Bill Staines, for letting us use the song Bridges on Bridges programming. That was Bill Staines. Today we have with us on World Call-In someone named Bonfire. Hello,
We know
hello,
her very
Bonfire. And she
somebody. We just pulled her off the street.
and of course we have and then we have Dennis Carius. Hello, Dennis. Say hello.
Hey, great to be with you.
And they're all remotely. We have a guest here. I normally put up someone who's resurrected. I put a skeleton up, but today we have people live people, so they're online and they can answer their own questions. And of course, next to me is Susan Coman, and I'm Jeff Beller. And
as far as we know.
And if you look at the screen, this is brought to you by the HREM, Human Renewable Energy Measure, and Bridges Programming, and another little group that's nonprofit. It's called Renew the Earth. And we all try to help humanity in our own way and somehow. So, but
we're bumbling along. We're bumbling along.
We're highlighting Bonfire today. So
right, and she has a lot of things on her mind.
And Dennis is supposed to be listening, going online and seeing us live to see how we look. Have you all been online yet, Dennis?
No, not yet, but I know within this half hour I'll be able to do this. Yes.
Okay, very fine.
Great.
Okay, you're on. Take it away.
Take it away, Bonfire.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Jeff and Susan, or more, I was going to say importantly, that may not be the case, but
no, we're not
important. I have right in front of me the press release for the HREN, Human Renewable Energy Measure from last summer for an event here where I live, which is Northeast USA. New York State, right up against the Vermont border. So some of that Vermonty kind of energy is filtering through here. It's more like that than, say, Manhattan kind of energy.
Right.
But I have a quotation that was sent to me by Jeff and Susan in promoting his talk here about the Human Renewable Energy Measure, and it's from Mr. Fuller. So I thought, why not open with a quotation from him?
Oh, great.
I would never try to reform man, and I think he would probably include women in that. Mm-hmm. That is much too difficult. What I would do was try to modify the environment in such a way as to get man, and I assume women, moving in the preferred direction. I must commit myself to reforming the environment and not the person, being absolutely confident that if you give people the right environment, they will behave favorably. Buckminster Fuller, sorry, but it was time you were updated there in terms of gender.
I think he.
So this is the dream of my friends Susan and Jeff regarding the human renewable energy measure. And we might just want to let people know that you are available to talk, to give her
To groups, yes.
presentations
Right.
on this really important issue.
Right.
So just for a minute, Susan or Jeff, would you promote yourself?
Yeah, and I think that, and I love that you did narrate Buckminster Fuller's quote. That you know, that's the thing, is that oftentimes people try to tackle the behavior of individuals that they think that behavior is somehow destructive, or you know, we got to control this, we got to control that, we got to, you know the drill with that. And usually, though, human behavior is a compensation for the type of conditions that they're living in. And I think that quote is very effective in taking that stress of, okay, this individual bugs me, I got to change it. No, that's not the point. It's not taking every individual on for their faults. We all have faults. We're all broken in some way by our environment and the way we've grown up and the experiences we've had. But he's trying to make a bigger picture, and he was always looking at the bigger picture. Buckminster Fuller was a large picture, large image guy, and he would speak about universe as if that was something very natural to consider all the time, is our place in what, and he would use universe as a noun. Well, it is a noun, but he would say in universe, he would say, well, actually, you're making it sort of vibrant when you use it, here we are in universe. But anyway, he was a great word person. He would make up words if there weren't the right words to say something. But in that quote, he is actually trying to tell us that, if you keep your eye on a larger picture and see what's affecting everyone commonly, and try to make the environment, the general environment that people deal with in everyday life, we all have to deal with, and we assert that it's food, shelter, and education, that these are the three basic, and those are the qualities, those are the essentials that we speak about with the Human Renewable Energy Measure, or HREM, that food, shelter, and education are.
So could we change that? Oh, sorry.
Certainly, go ahead.
I just was wishing that instead of education, because, for that's kind of a speak, I have an F in my voice.
No, it's going, I hear you fine here. Go ahead.
Well, it's good for you, but it makes it difficult for me.
Dennis does not hear it fine. There's a lot of reverberation. And Jeff, if you're on a speakerphone, that
No,
could
we're
be
not.
causing that.
No, we're not. We're on microphones.
Dennis, are
Way
you,
better.
hold it, Dennis, are you, were you able
Well,
to?
the delay was right on my voice, but it's fine now.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
Sorry, when I'm listening to a delay.
Yeah, it is very distracting.
Hold, I want to ask Dennis a question. Are you on video now? Are you on your?
No, remember when I mentioned the word half hour? Remember that?
Okay, so it's not the fault of that. It's something else that's going on.
But wait, it's now okay.
Okay, what was it that you wanted
Right,
to?
and that's kind of said on that. I was wondering if we could, or I would be offering the suggestion, there you go,
That's good.
of instead of education, which is so fraught with all kinds of manipulation, at least in my mind, if you could maybe consider access to knowledge.
Oh,
as,
sure. Yeah, and of course we always, words have so many, the insertion of certain preconceived notions with the words we used is everywhere. And that's what actually why Buckminster Fuller.
And lately I've been
That's
thinking of
why
education as that which gives you an edge in the world, especially if you've gone to all the right schools.
Yeah,
and,
well, that's yeah.
Dylan
You
said,
can see those.
education.
But I think
All
that
right, thank you.
I think that
Now, moving along, if I may.
well, just let me say
No,
one
no,
more thing.
Hold on,
Wait,
hold on.
I think it must be a delay.
Hold it.
We heard someone being called
Shouldn't be.
a scholar of religion. And my honey said, hey, isn't that like having a PhD in stage magic?
Well,
Wait, it's supposed to be funny.
well, no, I'm still back. I'm still back to the semantics here. Wait a second.
Well, wait, let me just clarify one thing before you leap forward, Bonnie.
Yes.
That's why Buckminster Fuller invented words when he felt that a word had gotten worn out, so to speak, and was getting too many solidified or concrete meanings that were not helpful. And so he would invent words, and then he would look at the larger picture. And he said that if the environment that people are living in is somehow made to be less stressful, less aggressively slave producing, let's put it that way, that people understand that, because we're all living that to some degree, that changes human behavior for the better, and people start making decisions, when they have free time and some more time to consider and to relate to their neighbors in a different way, and etc. This changes behavior. So I just love that quote for that reason.
The other thing is I want to bring out that most people who think, especially the best one I ever heard say this was Jacques Frisco from the Venus Project. And he said the problem with words is they get in the way.
Well, they can if people distort
so we need
meanings of them.
So when we say education, we don't mean the classic thinking process as it is now, education. We're talking about knowledge. We're talking about broadening your mind to a certain degree. And it's just that the accepted word is education or knowledge. You can use a word knowledge, but it's the question of your perception for the way it's semantics. It's not, you can get hung up on it. And what we're just trying to say is for instance, and I'm going to give a very quick definition for this. I used to play a game with my granddaughter, and we're driving along, and I would say something like, look at that red cow. And she'd look at me and say, no, it's not a red cow, Grandpa. It's a red barn. And I'd say, how do you know it's a red barn? And she said, because everybody agrees it's a red barn. And that was profound, because it's what we can get agreement on, a start point. Something just happened to her. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Well, speaking of may I resume?
Yeah, sure.
Speaking of education, I will leave the scholar of religion behind for a moment, which is supposed to be funny, and move on to this important notice to parents of high school juniors and or seniors and parents of students over 16 years of age, which came to us with the superintendent's message and the newsletter from a local high school. And this is included every autumn in the newsletter that is sent home from this high school and high schools, I'm sure, all over the U.S., because it's in regard to the notice to release your names, addresses, and phone numbers to military recruiters. I'll read to you what it says on this form, which has to be signed by the parents and returned to the school, or the school has a responsibility, a requirement more than a responsibility, to hand over your junior or senior student vital information to the military. Every year, this is repeated again and again. Here's what it says. a law that is commonly known as the No Child Left Behind Act, which some of us like to call the No Child Left Unrecruited Act, which is a public law, sets up many new rules and regulations for school districts that receive federal funds. There are many parts of this law. One provision requires that any school that receives money under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 is required to give to military recruiters upon their demand a list of the names, addresses, and phone numbers, directory information, that is, of the students within the school. However, the law further states that if a parent does not wish to have this information released, then the parent must notify the school in writing of that wish. So if you don't do it, I'm now poking a little note in here. If you don't do it, then you are essentially handing your child's information over to the U.S. military. It goes on to say that this particular central school has been receiving demands from military recruiters to provide them with the directory information of high school juniors and seniors. We have been most cooperative with recruiters. Doesn't that sound like something out of Germany in the 1930s? We have been most cooperative with recruiters in the past. We allowed them time during the day to meet with students during student lunch and or study hall periods. We know the military option is a good option for some of our students, and we do not want to deny the students that option. It is that time of year, I guess it's written here. We are in that time of year again when we must comply with the demands of the military recruiters. Unless you sign and return this form to the guidance counselor by September 18, 2015, we must give the military recruiters the names, addresses, and phone numbers of all of our high school juniors and seniors. Only those people who return this form will not have their directory information released. This is a crime against our young people. And further, whenever they have a recruiting table in our high schools across the United States, I am putting forth that they should have right next to that a poetry promoting table.
Or
So that we are responding to the recruiters with people like me recruiting young people to think of life as a poetic experience and endeavor, rather than selling themselves, giving themselves over to almost certain injury.
And also maybe, that's true, equal opportunity to speak, right? And also a table that suggests that there's other goals for a country to have than waging war, that you can have a goal of peace, and how you achieve that.
There are 2 points you're bringing out. First of all, you're saying the way they're controlling the school is through the economic system. They're going to stop funding to them.
If you have federal funds,
And
you're going to
get them cut if you don't conform.
Right.
Now, this is not new. This has been going on since, according to Buckminster Fuller and anthropologists, that when the sailors or the pirates of the world,
navigators,
the early navigators 5,000 years ago would help set up the kings. And they would tell the kings, make sure your smartest ones are hired, and they don't give out information. We are going to hire them. And that's exactly what the military is doing now. We want to know who your smartest kids are in your room, and we want to be able to capitalize on their brains so we can control the economic system. And they continue to control the economic system through the economics, and it's like a self-perpetuating system. And that's what we're seeing. And Dennis would, I'm sure, would say, and I've heard him say many times, that we have free kindergarten through high school, but college is so expensive, even though it's not really free. And then you join the service and you could just go kill people, and therefore everything is cool. The problem here is been going on now for well before our government ever did this, and it was well before the United States ever started, and it's well before Great Britain or the United Kingdom, if you remember how they united the kingdoms together, ever did this. So we have a problem, and the problem is perpetuated by the economic system. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay,
So
Dennis,
that is your drum to beat, kind sir, and I'm with you on that.
could I beat the drum just for a minute? This is Dennis.
Okay.
I mean, isn't it interesting? And we're not happy when we send our troops over into Iraq or Afghanistan, and yet we never have to ask, where are the troops coming from? You know, we never say, oh, they don't have enough troops, and should I join? No, how the troops get in there is we have free grade school, we have free high school, but then when you're 18 years old and you graduate from high school, you're ready to go to college. It's so expensive in this country that these kids, they say, well, I want to go to college. And they're told, look, just go overseas in the military, either the Army, Navy, Air Force, it doesn't matter. After 4 years, you'll be able to afford college. So, I mean, right now, we can't believe it in this country. We never have to ask where our troops are coming from.
No.
But these kids.
If you keep the economy as suppressed as it is in this country, and the lack of useful and interesting jobs for these youngsters, if you keep that going, and then military looks like a real prize to
if you have nothing, right?
Even the very intelligent students that Jeff was, ones that are excelling within the system, of our education system, which is not easy to do since it's very constraining. But some people do, some youngsters do accelerate in it. And even those youngsters who may have the possibility of a scholarship or something, they're very tempted by military going into the military. Oh, I can become an officer, or I can go to, Annapolis and become an officer. They really work hard to get the youngsters who have no other options, and the youngsters that possibly, could get scholarships. It's very, very insidious and ingrained, as Jeff was suggesting. It's been going on.
Let's not forget, if we're looking at the upper end of our, pardon?
I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the delay hitting again.
Oh, Jeff, do you see any?
No, it's another one.
It is kind of hard to hear. Again, there's a problem with the audio. It's hard to hear Bonnie speaking.
Well, the delay is lifted now, so that's good.
Okay, we hear you very clearly.
October 9th, there is a full page ad, can't even call it an ad really, in the New York Times, which is signed by Yoko Ono Lennon, with the website imaginepeace.com, and the only other thing it says on that whole blank page of the New York Times, that would be page A9, give peace a chance, with John Lennon's name under it as a quotation, give peace a chance. I am actually touched, although maybe I should be suspicious in some way, but when I was looking through the New York Times on that day and I came upon give peace a chance in the middle of a full page, otherwise pretty much empty, I was really, really touched. And I'm pretty sure that she would have placed this in memory of his birthday, John Lennon's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So in response to too much focus on seducing our young people to war and to the machinery of war, which is, I guess, very seductive in some instances, because it's like, I get to fly a stealth bomber,
right?
Whatever else might be the current, maybe a drone these days. As long as that's an enticement to human beings rather than a concept of peace, which is derived nonviolently.
Well, we don't have a big mechanism that represents peace, do we? We don't have a stealth bomber for peace. That's, you know.
Are you saying if we had more peace machinery?
I don't know.
Well,
Machinery and
well,
technology
well,
does seem to
well,
appeal to people.
Let's look at something. Since we're talking about imagination, I'm sorry, I should have had an imagination for our break instead of
Imagine.
instead of
Yeah.
I should have had imagine instead of
Lennon's song.
Yeah,
The
but we-
Lennon's
Not to
song.
worry.
but we're doing from a distance in the break. But I just want to bring something out. Supposing just like when you hit 18 and Dennis, you're told to join the service so you have a better quality of life, so you get your education, so you can get a job, but all you got to do is kill people. And I'm suggesting that when everybody is born, no matter where they are in the world, they get their SS number or their number, whatever you want to call it,
SS.
the social security number
Oh, I
or,
thought you
or
meant
secret service
Right, Secret
number,
Service.
and you get your SS number. But what happens is you're now inducted immediately into the service, or the army, and you get all your basic needs met, just like you do in the service, your education, food, and shelter. But what your job is not to, and the whole world gets that same thing. But your job as part of the army is to use your brain to help the people around you.
But you wouldn't call it an army.
Well, you could call it, doesn't matter what you
What,
call
a peace
it.
army? Army?
It's going to be an army, a human army to help make sure we don't cut trees unnecessarily.
That has a bad meaning, the word army.
Again, it's how
I know.
how we look at it.
But then you have to invent a new word.
So we call it a pasami or something, like a pastrami sandwich or a pasami.
No,
Or
I don't think
you
that
get joined into the pasami. And when you get that, your job then you can school yourself or get the knowledge to choose what you want to do as you're getting
How
to
about a
be an
chorus?
age. And whatever you want to sing, you want to be, whatever you want to do, you are part of that. Your needs are now met, just like if you were in the service. Your education is unlimited as far as you want to go with it. And you're going to get, but your job in the service is not to kill people. That's not your job. Your job is to fix.
Recently, pointed out to me, with all this contrariness in the U.S. about socialism / communism / the U.S. military is one of the most socialistic organizations.
Yes, and communistic.
Exactly. We've
Right.
been saying
It works beautifully.
when somebody asks me where does the HREM work, my answer to them, look at the military. It works perfectly well there. Unfortunately,
Their
their goal is to kill people.
Right.
So if you change the goal to help humanity, to come up with good ideas and work less hours around the world, you then really have an HREM world, which makes sure all humanity has their basic needs met. You have no need for war. That's the basic premise of that.
But it's fun.
Can Dennis ask another question?
Dennis can break in anytime he wants.
Really, have you heard how high the rate of suicide is with troops that come home here? I mean, these are
Yes.
kids, in their 20s.
It's horrendous.
They come home. I mean, thank God they didn't get killed over in Iraq or Afghanistan, but they come back home here and they kill themselves. And you know why? My opinion is they're home now with their family and they're going, to church on Sunday or whatever, and then they repeat all that they learned their whole life: love thy neighbor, thou shalt not kill. And they're thinking, oh my God, I can't believe what I did over there. They tell you, just go into that house, just kill whoever's in there, just go ahead and do it. And they go, oh my God, it wasn't just those men, it's those women and those children I had to kill. They come home and they're in church and they say, oh my God, this is just what I was told not to do. I think that has a lot to do with how high the rate of suicide is with our young troops that are coming home.
Yes.
What you're saying, Dennis,
That's
what you're
one of the reasons. I'm not as keen on religion, though perhaps as other people who are in this mix of conversation today. I would really like to go back to my comment, which is not mine actually. I'm quoting someone else in my household who we were listening to the radio, and on the radio they were describing someone who was going to contribute some ideas. Maybe this person had actually written a book, but they described this person as a scholar of religion. And my friend said being a scholar of religion is like having a PhD in stage magic.
Okay, now I got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I said it
Thank you for
up there.
repeating
No,
that.
And as I tend to listen to Christian radio from time to time, mostly just to get the vibe on what's going on in that way of thinking and experiencing reality. There was one show they were talking about young people. I think it was actually an interview with a teenager who had written a book for teenagers, which sounded, by way of the interview, like a wonderful book. But the final conclusion of the person who was interviewing the teenager said, well, thank you so much for all your efforts on behalf of helping your fellow teens to find their way in this crazy world. That's my phrasing. And then this person said, and to remember, you have to think for yourself and have faith in the Lord.
Oh,
And
there.
I thought,
That's
okay,
contradictory.
think for yourself and have faith in the Lord?
Well,
Is that an oxymoron?
That's exactly the point. It's called cognitive dissonance, and that's the problem with most of our society today. Not just coming back from where you're told never to kill people, and then you go overseas and they say, well, throw a bomb in that building, and when they come running out, shoot them in the head because those are evil people. Then you come back, oh, you can't kill anybody. It's cognitive dissonance. Someone does a program called Paul Marco. His name is Paul Marco and Mindy Yerkin, and they talk about mixed emotions, or they talk about belief systems. But what you brought out is just one portion. See, you're talking about religion. The biggest religion we have in the world now, bigger than Christianity or Muslims or Judaism or any of these things, is the belief in the economic system. We believe in money. The first thing you say to someone, how do we help people? The question then is, what's it going to cost us to do that? That's the problem. There is no cost to helping people. We're so.
There's a cost to not helping. There's a huge cost.
The point is, in physics, human beings work. In physics, human beings help each other. We all die. We all eat food. We all drink water. We all educate ourselves or get knowledge to know which food and water to have. You want to use different words.
Thank you.
But the reality is that there is no cost. It's strictly a belief system that there's a cost. It's strictly a belief system. What is a human being worth? What is a dollar worth? And when you ask a human being or a person, what are you worth? They say, I am priceless. And that's true. There is no such thing as money. They are priceless, but they have a finite life. They live 80 years of age. They need a certain amount of food and water, which can be measured, and shelter. And they have to have knowledge or education or whatever else words you want to use. But we can measure everything excepting for the knowledge or the education. That cannot be measured. Go ahead. Sorry.
Moving right along, if I may.
Well, and just real quick, Dennis just wanted to say that over 99% of us agree with what Jeff just said. It's just, unfortunately, the upper 1/10 of 1%. If they don't agree, it can be a real problem. Okay, I'm off. I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't know about that 99%, but that's what mainstream.
We're trying not to divide.
That's
people.
what mainstream media told us.
We don't want to divide.
They
people.
want us to be divided.
We are all in this together. We're all in this boat together.
We're in the spaceship. We're in the same spaceship,
yes,
going around the world, going around space. And if we divide each other up and we start shooting one another and killing our environment, we're going to just
divide and conquer
we're
has been
going
the
to
oldest.
wind up killing ourselves. So we need, and the other, you know, the animals too. I mean, we're doing some terrible stuff. Anyway, I want go ahead. I didn't mean to get that
All
carried
right,
away.
continuing on with the galactic and universe perspective. I was talking to a friend recently about Lyme disease, and particularly the spirochetes, although Lyme disease can be quite a stew of as many as 10 different viruses and bacteria, and even there's that pathogenic mycoplasma, which is a patented disease, shame, which can be found in the diagnosis of someone who has Lyme disease. But the spirochete is the little darling who can travel anywhere in your body. That's the Borrelia aspect of the Lyme disease diagnosis. And it occurred to me that spirals are quite amazing. I mean, many of us actually have a kind of reverence for spirals. Even the way they turn up in nature with the wild grapevines or the volunteer squashes we had in great profusion here in our garden this year. And there are these beautiful spirals. The spirochete of the disease called Lyme disease, however, the Borrelia burgdorferi, is akin, some people might not know this, akin to the spirochete of, that terrible disease. Oh my God, Bonnie, brain. Syphilis, there you go. Syphilis has a spirochete too, a little spiral. And with Lyme disease, that little spiral can corkscrew anywhere in the body that it wants to, which is why it can cause an electrical shortage in the heart, which is can take a person out, or go into the brain or into the tissue anywhere, into the joint, and kind of harbor there in one of three ways. All right, I'm not going to go off on my dissertation about Lyme disease, but I was talking to my friend about spirochetes and spirals and how kind of sad it is to me that this tiny little bacterium has the capacity to cause such disaster in the human body and in other animals as well. And I thought maybe it's possible that the galaxy we live in, being spiral, is actually a spirochete in the universe.
Well,
Okay, think about that for a minute,
Well,
right?
I actually,
Spiraling nebula, the galaxy that our little planet is living in, the next, you could say, where planet Earth is, may actually be a spirochete causing some kind of problem in the universe.
well, we actually thought about that. We did a show about that.
did we?
Yeah.
About Lyme disease
Well,
and spirochetes?
no, it was about how small a speck and how we are as a species, that we are probably doing some terrible, terrible stuff.
Yeah, but that has nothing
Well,
to
I
do
don't know
with
that we can
the.
be responsible for the spiral of our galaxy. I think that's a bit beyond my control. So if our galaxy itself is some kind of a spirochete that goes spiraling into the universe, the greater universe, or maybe even the polyverses, I'm not going to assume responsibility for that one.
Well, the thing is,
You'd have to discuss that with Buckminster Fuller.
yeah, that's when Bucky's here.
He loves to talk about things.
Bucky will be here soon.
that broad.
We can talk to Bucky, but we can actually discuss that and then look at his writings, and he'll talk to you about his writings.
I just don't know how a spiral would present itself in the universe, because we can't really see how things are in the universe. We're just perceiving it through numbers and through people calculating distances here on Earth and making assumptions.
We have pictures of our galaxy, don't we?
Yes, they are pictures, but these are pictures done with our technology. And our technology.
Don't those pictures represent the galaxy?
I don't think they do.
No, I think
I don't think you can
it's
really.
our perception. It's like
it's like trying to, I mean, you can see it with a camera. You look through the camera lens, and you once you look at something with your eyes and you see what you see. You look at something through a camera and it takes a picture. It's not what you saw. It's different. It's been changed. And, our technology is excellent, but it's still not even as good as the human eye. So you're going to go into
Getting all of that
space.
aside, I agree with you, and thank you for forwarding that concept. Do you have an understanding that the galaxy we live in is a spiral?
I have a suggestion from what scientists have calculated about it through physics and through calculus and our higher math, which is the best we can do.
Right now.
And nobody can go out there and really.
Well, you're not going to have any fun with me about the possibility that our spiraling galaxy, if it is, could be a spirochete.
No, I can't accept that. I'm sorry, Bonnie.
I can.
You're not going to have fun?
No.
Well,
no.
I can see that you could have fun with that.
Well,
but people have been looking for repeating designs in nature, forever, and trying to make it's like numerology. It's
all right. So here we go. Here's another idea.
No, hold
Yes, before we get off that idea.
Okay.
Okay, because I can't believe it. There are 100 billion galaxies in the universe. Just in our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, 400 billion stars. And believe me, none of these are million. They're both billion. All right, 400 billion stars in our galaxy.
Is that all?
Is
that all, Dennis? I thought there were more than that.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't know there was just that many. That's all I'm saying.
How do we know that? How do we know that, Dennis?
I think it's
that's
more.
what I'm saying, and I really believe these, these scientists, not just the bachelor's or masters, but doctorate degrees. And I honestly believe that we now have, we go out into outer space, and we can see what we could not see 100 years ago. So I honestly believe that they are correct with this. And when we say that we're the only life in this universe, to me, it's like, we're 3 fish or, 4 fish floating in the ocean saying, oh, we're the only fish in this ocean. There's nothing else up there. So I really think that
Dennis, the concept of up there, what's up there has been changing throughout human history. I mean, it used to be the Greek gods were up there. And, before that, the Egyptian deities were up there. So, we've been looking at the constellations. We've been refining our ideas of what's up there, but we don't have it figured out yet. We don't have it.
We can now say it's out there.
We know that it's bigger.
Out there.
That there probably aren't any entities.
There are no definite. Here's the problem.
We don't
Going back to the spiral, I want to say that it's possible that you're right, and it's sort of interesting to see that. But these are our perceptions as
they're limited.
A pretty stupid species. When I listened to, I heard Buckminster Fuller on one of his lectures, or we read that, and he addressed a whole load of world PhDs.
No, leaders.
World leaders. And the way he opened up his address was, I don't know why I'm here. You guys are so stupid.
No, ignorant. He used the word ignorant.
You used ignorant, that you can't possibly understand what I'm trying to say because of my ignorance.
Okay, I was just trying to be funny.
Oh, okay. Well,
you're not allowed to be funny.
Well, you could be funny, but I was just trying to.
Can I try again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Keep trying.
All right. I don't know if you guys growing up were given the notion, I was as a little Catholic girl, that I am dust and unto dust I shall return.
I don't know. Dennis, did you?
Right.
Well, hold it. Dennis was brought up like Dennis was.
I thought of the kind of dust that accumulates, for instance, under a bed or in a corner.
Oh, I got lots of that.
The kind of stuff where fibers and feathers and cat hair and all of those things kind of roll into a ball. That's kind of what I thought they meant by dust. But I was talking to a friend lately who thought that the dust that we are and the dust to which we will return is stardust, Isn't that a lovely idea?
Oh, that's nice.
Hold
yeah.
it, Dennis was brought up as a Catholic. What kind of dust are you going to come back up
Yes.
as?
Wow. Not stardust.
Well, what dust is it, Dennis? You were brought up as a Catholic
Too.
too.
Right, you're right, but I just don't want to come back as dust.
What do you want to come back as?
I'd say either a human being or maybe one step higher.
What's one step higher?
A cat.
Right. I mean, human beings might be the worst animal on this planet if we have climate change, global warming. If we ruin this planet, maybe a rabbit would be better than a human being.
There you go.
Suddenly we can create like rabbits.
Yes, right. And they're even vegetarians. They don't kill any other animals.
Well, then you are a good Catholic because people multiply like rabbits. Kidding, I'm only kidding. Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, who's
Bonnie.
going ahead?
Bonnie.
Okay, Bonnie. Go ahead, Bonnie.
So, I have been thinking also about how many people I know, and I'm choosing not to be one of them, have their little paws on their phone texting all the time, back and forth, or they're, it's an addiction in a lot of people to have that kind of contact. And I actually think, speaking of education, I think people have been educated to this response. But I think part of what this addiction is that we keep seeing, I keep seeing in any case, among my fellow human beings who can afford to have one of these little app-laden rectangles in their hands, is that they really are responding to a form of post-traumatic stress. I think that PTSD is what we are seeing in this urgency and this constancy, people needing to be in touch with one another, obsessively, without ever even considering that they could do this in some other way, telepathically, for instance. All of our telepathic capabilities have been educated out of us. Our confidence in our ability to communicate in other ways besides what we're doing right now, actually. But I'm thinking even more of the little phones in the hands of everybody who can afford to have a little phone in their hand. And this disturbing generosity of trying to get computers into every school and every impoverished country in the world, thinking particularly of Africa at the moment. And I'm thinking that old wonderful Pink Floyd song, "Leave the Kids Alone," just another brick in the wall. So I'd be interested in people's thoughts about this addictive behavior with texting and phoning.
Could I make
an expression of post-traumatic stress?
Could I make a little kind of possible another way to look at that? Because
Okay.
our the phones, the internet, the way that we are receiving and talking right now, it's over electrical waves, electrical magnetic waves, and that's the way our bodies
Radio.
work. In our brains, we use electrical magnetic. We use electricity to get our brains to convey messages around. And I'm just saying that this is like this is a type of telepathy, a crude type of telepathy, but it could be viewed as a kind of telepathy that we're trying to perfect, even though it looks very annoying, as you say, when people are constantly messing with their text messages and not paying attention to what's around them, at the cost of what's actually physically around them. But this is some kind of transition, maybe, that's going to go toward what, back to to abilities.
Or to a different.
Yeah, it may be going somewhere is all I'm suggesting. It's a type of what is it, mechanized telepathy.
But for that mechanization, there is such a price.
Well, that's what I'm also suggesting, that there's a price, but there's a price
way beyond what there would be no price if we had been allowed to develop our telepathic tendencies,
But-
which are ours as ancient beings.
Oh, I want to ask you a question.
Replaced
How
with
many times
pollution, essentially.
have somebody called you, or you called them and said, "I was just thinking about you"? Has that ever happened to you? I know it happens to me a lot. Someone will call me, "I was just thinking about you." They're across the country. You
I
know,
second the motion.
so there is some there, but the thing is, I don't
It's like
think.
the expression of something that is vitally, anciently ours, that belongs to us, which is being stripped away from
Or
us
maybe the
by
opposite.
rendering it something like,
could be-
oh, you know,
Could it-
things
It could be
women
that we're taking a path back.
and
Could
we're
it-
losing that which is our natural capacity. Don't forget, please don't
Nick.
forget that all of the technology we are using is primarily military. It wasn't made so that human
Right.
beings could
It's
communicate.
almost all the
It's kind of
technology.
like the hang of the
Right.
whole NASA project.
We get it, we get it after they're
She
finished.
can't
with
hear
it.
you, Chris.
Industrialized orange drink of the 50s, 60s. We're getting the tang of programs that are profoundly injurious to us. They are part of the war machine, and we think it's great we can do this. But I think
But-
they stole from us by education our trust in our own native ability to foster and encourage the kind of telepathy that Dennis and Jeff have just mentioned. That's ours. That belongs to us as humans.
Okay,
We
well,
need to claim that back.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you
want to
with
look
that.
at. I want to look at this a little differently. Supposing that this is part of this military insanity that we're doing, and killing the planet like we're doing, and killing one another like we're doing, is part of our evolution growing process. That now we have to first face up to the fact that when we wake up every morning, because we're in this part of the world, you and Dennis and Susan and I and anybody else in this part of the world is literally going to kill. There's one person, from what I gather from the stats that I don't know if I believe or not, like the 99%, one person in this planet, in our spaceship, dies of starvation every 5 seconds. Not because of lack of food, because of lack of distribution of that food. Now, once we face up to that, the next portion of my thinking or my knowledge is, or my education, or whatever you want to call that, the next portion is, how do I help? Is it possible to stop killing other human beings and to make sure that no one starves to death? To make sure their education or their knowledge is able to grow, is able to have to slave for staying alive to get their basic needs met. I think this may be an evolution process. I don't think it's something that may have been stifled. Maybe the military, well, and I'm saying maybe with a capital M, because I'm not sure. I don't think I'm smart enough, or anybody that I know, or any human being that I've ever heard speak, including, we've been talking about this since the days of Aristotle. So I'm saying that we have not evolved as a species yet. I think we can evolve, but we are so ignorant or so stupid about the things we
Potential.
can. We have tremendous potential, whether we use that potential or not.
But you sound like a high school guidance counselor. I think to even suggest that we have these capacities is a form of hubris.
Well,
No,
I'm thinking a lot about that.
we don't
Shakespeare
know.
song,
We
know,
don't-
To the gift to be
yeah.
simple, to the gift to be free, to the gift to come down where we ought to be.
well, I could have played that song
I'm not sure
too.
that what we're talking about here is this capacity. Maybe we have it, maybe we don't. But the damage that we're doing by being seduced and then run by the military, which is of course my mantra. Bonnie goes over that again and again and again. I keep returning to being under the spell of the military, of a martial mentality. And I know that, as I know all three of you, you are not governed, you're not, that is not your motivation. You have great humanitarian motivation. However, we are all under the spell
well,
of technology, and I don't think it's
Could-
necessarily evolution. I'm not even sure there is evolution. I'm not saying I'm a creationist. I think we're falling for whatever they tell us are the things that are possible that are at odds with each other.
Yeah, the
You
military.
can't be a creationist. You have to be an evolutionist. You can't be an evolutionist. You have to be a creationist. What about the 25,000 other things that could be describing our condition and our situation? This is not necessarily a sign of evolution because we are cranking up using energy in this way that is so profoundly destructive to the planet. Even if you think of the auric field of our planet, and you think of the number of satellites and other kinds of warmongering, a lot of it's warmongering, machinery that's in the atmosphere, that tiny little thin atmosphere that supports life on this planet. If you think of that as an energetic field for the planet itself, it is not only encumbered, I would posit, it is also injured. It is made sick by this ability that we think is or you're suggesting
Could I-
is a step in evolution.
Wait, may
If you
I
sample
just,
all of that
may I suggest,
quietly
yeah,
and begin to have those communications with one another, we wouldn't need to be owned by this machinery that is basically Battelle Corporation, DARPA. It's all for them, really.
any technology can be used for good or for evil that people create. And if you look back at who were the inventors, what millions of people were involved in inventing and bringing the technologies to the point where they are now, they weren't trying to create weapons. They were trying to, most of them were working toward what would make life better for more people. If you read Tesla's writing, he wasn't trying to make a killing in any kind of business. He was an inventor, and he brought, the alternating current. He brought the radio wave. He started radio. They were not initially, these technologies were not military. The military took these things and manipulated them to their purposes. Now they are released again to the public. We can bend them to our purposes, like we're communicating now, trying to get more angles on things. And Bonnie is speaking, and Dennis is speaking, and Jeff is speaking, I'm speaking. More and more people can communicate in this way. It's not that expensive. It's not that much of a technical stretch for most people who have the equipment to do it.
What are we communicating, Susan?
We're communicating something different than let's go make war and get more resources out of other countries.
You and I are trying to do that, but in general, my sense is that most people are communicating either pornography, which I hear is really rampant on the internet, or there's some kind of hey, hello, hey, how you doing? Hey, what you doing?
Right.
I mean, it's insipid.
Well, that's true. There's a lot of that, but then there are a few people that are not doing that, and it could increase.
I don't think it's enough of a high enough count.
Well, okay,
Well, maybe not at this point. Maybe not.
But let me ask you a question.
But is that a reason to get rid of this wonderful possibility that we have?
Whoa! I want to show what I see happening, even on mainstream media. They are saying there is something radically wrong with our system. And the closer we look at it, the worse it looks. From a distance, it looks like we are in harmony. It looks from the distance, it looks like it'll work. But everybody, the mainstream media, the Pope recently talked about how we have to stop this insanity through the economic system. You're listening to Bernie Sanders now. You're even listening to a Republican who decided he couldn't lead anymore because he was touched by what's really happening. I think that there's a general, and it's happening all over the world, there's a movement happening, a general consciousness moving forward moving some direction. We don't know which it is. but I think that there is a change happening. You're right. It's not fast enough for us in our lifetime. We'll be long dead probably, and we've seen things deteriorate. At least in our own minds, we saw things deteriorate.
Wait. Who are you saying is right?
I'm saying that you and I have seen things. It looks to us, because we're looking at it closely, deteriorate. But I'm also looking at it from another point of view, that maybe we are moving forward in some way. And I can tell you this just by the song you brought up, All God's Creatures Have Played. You didn't bring that one, you brought the other one up. To be simple. Well, a matter of fact, somebody handed me 27 versions of that song on a CD. And I have with all choirs singing it from all around the world. Now that's just by someone handing me that version. We have it on a CD now of all the different versions. And then I want to bring this out. We'll take a little break now for about 5 minutes. We'll be back. And this brings us to the part where it's from a distance. And the reason why I'm playing that is I bought this for a piano we bought. And I watched the words, and the words were really great. I don't like the word God so much as they say it in there. But I would say that we're on this spaceship and nature is watching us. And we're really screwing things up, but I think we have the ability not to. So this is a Bette Midler vocal, and it's cool. We'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Oh, we can't hear Bonnie sing the song?
Of course, yeah.
From a distance, the world looks blue and green, and the snow-capped mountains white. From a distance, the ocean meets the stream, and the eagle takes to flight. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes through the land. It's the voice of hope, it's the voice of peace, it's the voice of every man. From a distance, we all have enough, and no one is in need. And there are no guns, no mountains, no disease, no hungry mouths to feed. From a distance, we are instruments.
That's great.
Marching on one, playing songs of hope, playing songs of peace. They're the songs of every man. God is watching us. God is watching us. God is watching us from a distance. From a distance, you look like my friend, even though we are at war. From a distance, I just can't comprehend what all this fighting is for. From a distance, there is harmony, It's the love of loves. It's the heart of every man. It's the hope of hope. It's the love of loves. This is the soul of every man. And God is watching us. God is watching. God is watching us from a distance. Oh, God is watching us. God is watching. God is watching us from a distance.
Well, that's pretty good, I must say. I don't know if it's God's watching us, but I do know one thing, that we're in this damn spaceship, and if we keep on doing the damage we're doing, we are definitely going to destroy it. So that's my point. Anyway, we're back from our break. This is Bridges Programming. You're listening to Wednesday World Call-In, and Renew the Earth is sponsoring it. And the big push for this is the Human Renewable Energy Measure that says all humanity must, by physics and by nature's law, or if you want to be religious about it, God's law, has to have their basic needs met.
And I've restated it in light of what Bonnie has said and other people have said. We should say nutrition, shelter, and knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay?
Nutrition,
Thank you.
shelter, and knowledge. Okay, well
I
that.
was even going to go for access to knowledge, but knowledge is great. Thank you.
There you go. See?
All right. Speaking of knowledge, may I continue, or did you have more you wanted to say?
No, we are now on our second half.
All right, second half. And here is my second.
Unfortunately, tears just came to my eyes listening to Bette sing that song.
Well, your emotions are,
Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to tell you that was a very moving song in light of what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Well, it must be that you have now access to any music that you want. Is that true?
That's true.
that doesn't.
Wow, congratulations on that. That's a big deal.
That is, because I can't. It's amazing because a lot of the times I think of something, and at my age I don't remember exactly what it is, and I listen to the old music, and because I'm an old person, and I say, well, I wonder what that song. What were the words to that song? And I can go online, or years ago I'd go to the library and look it up and spend half my life looking for one simple item, where now I can save some of my lifetime that I have left and find it out sooner. So
all you have to do is say it into the computer
and talk to it. I don't even have to spell it, because I'm sort of intellectually handicapped in ways, so I can't
Well, I
spell
would say
it.
you're intellectually handicapped. Excuse me, I've known you for a long time.
But anyway, go ahead.
I would not say that that's accurate.
Okay, so go ahead, and I
Right.
want to get
Well, I have a few things remaining here before me, and I would like to, at some point in the time remaining, do a little storytelling. I am becoming a storyteller. I guess I always have been in some way, and my preference has been to be a disembodied voice. But I have joined a group of storytellers in this part of the world, and I'll have my debut coming up, Gulp, standing in front of people. This is on my way to becoming a stand-up comedian, probably in the next few years. But it is a story about fairies and my experience with fairies. So sometime before we part ways today, I would really like to, well, I would say practice on you, but I don't think it's really practice anymore. I'd like to tell you a story, which will become public in November.
Well, it sounds
But on
good.
the way there, I have before me because I just renewed my passport, which indicates to me that they were willing to renew my passport. So it must be that they didn't see anything in my behavior of the last 10 years. Hey, too reprehensible.
You're no threat.
And I might be on the no-fly list.
You're not a threat to
And
security.
a friend of mine would say, oh, you just wish you were on the no-fly list because it means you'd be having some kind of an impact. I don't want to be on the no-fly list. But anyway, they renewed my passport so I can travel around and about. And with it came this card that is from the Department of Homeland Security. It is regard to Trusted Traveler Program. And now you can go about getting special pre-check with TSA. That would be the Transportation Security Agency, right? TSA. And also the global entry, also Nexus, also Sentry at the NTRI. One of the things I have learned in reading Glenn Greenwald's remarkable book, No Place to Hide, is the craziness that the hoarding NSA, supercomputer wizards, they really love acronyms. They are throughout all of the documents that our hero, Edward Snowden, brought to light a couple of years ago and pretty much sacrificed his life to do so. In the book, No Place to Hide by Glenn Greenwald, you can see the various pages, our computer pages that our hero, again, from my point of view, Edward Snowden made available to us as American citizens, actually as global citizens, and frequently, as though they are teenagers with too much time on their hands, or maybe college students with too much time on their hands, it is fraught with acronyms, and some of them are quite cute, are cutesy, and all of them in regard to various programs that have been put in place, are still in place, to keep us under surveillance. I don't like being under surveillance. I don't agree with the people who say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, it doesn't matter. Those people don't comprehend that even raising your voice can be, in tyranny, an expression of doing something wrong. I'm for the democratic process. I am for the free exchange of ideas. And there are certain circumstances, and there have been in this country, and there will be again, let's say there is even now, a stranglehold on the voice of the free exchange of ideas. So when I see on this card from the Department of Homeland Security, Trusted Traveler Program, their term, SDNTRI, I know that they're referring to the idea of a sentry at the NTRY, not I, at least I assume they are, but it reminds me so much of the acronym-laden work of the NSA. While they are spying on us, while they are interrupting our activism, I was just reading a chapter in that remarkable book, No Place to Hide by Glenn Greenwald, the way that hacktivists, I'm not one of those, but activists, and I do still fancy that I am one of those, how we can be undermined, certainly by way of computers and just the internet in general, spied on and undermined, even by losing access to our own websites or our own email. They have the ability to do all of that. So I guess we're just not being annoying enough, because here we are still radiating out over the internet.
Bonnie, Dennis agrees 100% with what you're saying. I think some of these whistleblowers, like Edward Snowden, they do such a great job. Instead of saying, you're going to go to jail and all of this stuff, some of those, they're doing such great work. They should probably be elected as some of our next leaders in this country, because there's nothing, when they say that, wow, I was working for the NSA or the FBI or the CIA, and this Constitution and our Bill of Rights. So for them to, I mean, they have to run over to countries like Russia to speak, to protect themselves. I really think,
Ironically.
I know, really. I mean, they're doing such great work. It's really sad, but to me, it just defines. Did you ever hear the term dysfunctional government that needs reform?
Well, it doesn't surprise me there would be such a term.
Wow. Well, I'm just really impressed. Some of these whistleblowers, I think they did 100% what was right for, in our country. What was wrong is when they took that job for the NSA or the FBI or the CIA, they had to sign, it used to be when you took a job, it was like, one page, you had to sign off. Now it might be 30 or 40 pages. Nobody even reads all this stuff. So they just sign, yeah, okay, now I want my job. And then when
Read those 30 or 40 pages, how do you know it is 30 or 40?
Well, no, I'm not saying I haven't worked with some of those places. I'm just saying, don't you agree as time goes on that when you look at terms and conditions, it used to be 1 or 2 pages. Don't you agree that in a lot of things that you're out there purchasing or on the internet doing, that the terms and conditions are much longer than they used to be?
Oh, yes, I agree.
Well, I don't actually, I'm not doubting what you're saying, but that's not how I'm conducting my life, so I would not have seen that.
Well, Susan, do you agree with me?
Yes, I know what you're referring to. I'd like to go back to what Bonnie was saying about acronyms, and previously we were talking about how words are becoming co-opted by a concrete meaning that leaves behind subtlety, and acronyms do the same thing, but they're taking whole concepts and lumping them into an acronym, and so they're losing the subtlety of a whole paragraph instead of just a word or a whole book, in some cases of information is condensed into an acronym, and it's another way that our language is being strangled, and the subtlety of meanings that used to be part of every word, and is clear to people who try to write and to possibly create poetry out of words, that these things are there and were meant to be there, but these are being choked out by the use of, as you said, the acronyms, the propaganda about how a word should be used, and you're not using it properly if you don't use it in this way, and it's a very insidious, and of course this is a way of promoting a certain amount of ignorance in the populations that are affected in
Keep
this
them
way.
dumb.
And acronyms are another military formulation. They love acronyms, and of course now
The word is acronym.
acronyms. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There you go. I messed up already.
The other thing is, there's another way to look at this. Like
There you go.
Dennis brought something out. He said the terms of contract are much longer than they used to be. Well, there was a time when you didn't have a term of contract, and when I used to work with different groups for companies versus unions, I used to go to an arbitrator, and I said to the arbitrator, in the actual contract, yes, we are not following the contract, but that's not how we sign the contract. We sign the contract in a spirit.
In a certain spirit.
And now we don't need terms of agreement. We have the person you're dealing with, or the company. Theoretically, the company is now they said that the company is, the corporation's a person. So we should be able to use the spirit of contract with them as well. The spirit of contract says we're going to give you this item for this amount of your life work. That's the spirit of contract. if someone takes advantage of the spirit of that contract, they should not be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's happening is because what's dominating the belief system about money and economics dominates the world now. So therefore, they have special lawyers that write contracts and terms of agreement, which is meant not to benefit humanity. It's meant to make money with. And that's the problem.
And actually, that's a very dangerous thing when the most powerful thing that people can do, which is come to an agreement, is being perverted into something for lawyers to manipulate and try to create profit.
And when they make profit, they're taking your life away. People don't mind working, but they do mind being conned. And the reason why they're being conned, and that's what we're afraid to give out our Social Security number. Of course, we may have to give up our life, our hours of labor to pay off that bill or to pay the taxes that we missed the loophole somewhere and they got us, or we lost our house because we couldn't pay taxes on them. Well, the spirit of the contract is not benefiting humanity. The spirit of terms of agreement is not benefiting humanity. The military is creating, let's suppose, and they are creating chemtrails, or they're creating diseases that for profit. That is wrong. It's simply not part of the agreement. It is not in the spirit of the contract of humanity helping other humanity. And that's what both of you are objecting to. You're saying the spirit of the contract isn't working for humanity. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah,
Okay, let Bonnie proceed.
forcefully.
Forge ahead, Bonnie.
Well, okay then. Speaking of pharmaceutical ingenuity and diseases, as you could hear, a little bit, I have here from going back way into September an article which probably filtered to anyone who might be listening by way of other news media, but the title here in the New York Times is Pentagon Labs Face Inquiry in Handling of Lethal Germs. I don't know, maybe it didn't really make it into the main corridors of public education or information, but because of Lyme disease as entomological warfare, I feel keenly attentive when I see these articles. And here's just a little bit of what it says. Pentagon Labs Face Inquiry in Handling of Lethal Germs. Concerns about the military lab surfaced in May, that would be in 2015, when it was discovered that the Dugway lab, the Dugway Proving Grounds, which is famous for all kinds of terrible experiments with diseases, by the way, that's me suggesting, during the past decade, mistakenly shipped live anthrax, the bacteria were supposed to have been killed, to numerous labs in the United States and seven other countries. Okay. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are investigating. They should investigate themselves. No, wait. Someone else should investigate the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But I do interject. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are investigating 4 Defense Department labs for mishandling deadly germs used in bioterrorism research, a spokesman said Friday. Now, bear in mind that biological, within those laboratories that are considered to be biosafety level, high hazard, level 4, 3, and 4, where you have to suit up to work with these darlings, are also in that mix, is also the components of Lyme disease. So people who say, oh no, our government wouldn't do that, our government wouldn't experiment in a way that this could either escape or just fall out of the sky to make us sick. My government wouldn't do that. But you see, if it's out of mere choice. Nevertheless, in either case, it is happening, and Lyme disease turns up in these high containment, supposedly containment laboratories. Well, it doesn't matter if they have high containment, if they're actually shipping live anthrax all over the world. Excuse me, duh. The mistakes involve, I'm reading the article again, the mistakes involve anthrax, plague, and viruses that cause encephalitis, which are studied by the military to defend against, to defend against their potentially used as biological weapons, as biological weapons, not necessarily to defend, perhaps to offend. In fact, there's a history of that in our military records. There's no evidence, back to the article, that anyone has been harmed by the errors or that there is any risk to the public. No one was in danger. The public was never in danger.
No animals were harmed in these.
But bioterrorism experts say that there should be zero tolerance. Gosh, Bonfire says there should be zero tolerance. I'm not a bioterrorism expert. I'm just using what I would call, uncommon sense. Oh, remember that? Okay. Because the organisms are so dangerous, and that even seemingly small mistakes, like flaws in record keeping, could have calamitous results, and have already. I say that as a victim of Lyme disease. And there's more to the article. If anybody wants to check it out, it is from the New York Times, 9/12/50, September 12th, 2016.
I want to bring out something about people trust our government. When I was many years ago, when I was probably in my teens, I went to high school, and they had several kind of air raid drills. One, when the thing went off, one of them was to get out of the school quickly, and then there was a fire drill, so you quickly got out of the school. But then they had the air raid drill. Now this is amazing. Our government instructed our classes, every school, every high school, kindergarten, to duck, and the desks, by the way, were made of wood. Sometimes they had a metal base to them, but basically they were a wooden desk. And when that drill came about, you had to duck under your desk
And cover.
Duck and cover, they called it. And that was to protect you in case of a nuclear bomb attack. Now, that to me is pretty crazy.
They had no idea.
Don't you think about how crazy that is? I mean,
Yes.
This is.
It shows you how expendable we are.
Well, not only expendable, but someone actually put a directive in: get under the desk in case there's a nuclear
Well, I
bomb
think
attack.
that was not meant to be even serious. They were just keeping the populations ignorant about what the real danger.
Right.
You know.
So I mean, this is. So if you don't think,
And what else could you do that would be better than that?
Nothing.
well, you could go outside and take a good
Go
breath
to
of.
the basement, maybe.
Well,
No.
Well,
Well, some
actually,
people did build bomb shelters.
actually, the best thing you could have done back then was go outside and wait for the flash.
Really, and just enjoy it. That's your last moment on Earth.
No, they had an old Abbott and Costello joke, and the Abbott and Costello, I think you forget who's talking to whom. They said if you should go to the Grand Canyon, it's very, very deep canyon, but if you should so happen to slip, to look to your left. And the guy said to the person who was saying that, why should I look to my left? He said, because it's a beautiful sight and you'll never see it again. That's the problem. We're going to all, when you know that you're putting yourself in a piece of peril, and you can't, nature taught you that you're not to jump off the cliff, you'll die. And nature and this is physical. We have to stop doing these physical things that are going to kill us. We are given a brain to think this through, and I don't think we've come to anywhere near the use of our brain to say, you know, we don't, the Lyme disease is something we probably created. The fact
Probably.
well, I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt because I'm not smart enough to tell them one way or the other. I'm suggesting there may be other answers that I don't have the answers for. This is, I think it's probably.
Your friend Bonnie, she's done a lot of research.
Well, I'm accepting that, and I'm accepting a lot of my friends who did research. I respect people who are anthropologists.
Are you talking about insect people or people? Oh, okay, anthropologists.
Anthropologists
Mm-hmm.
who studied the beginning of man. I have to go by what they've spent their life doing. You spent a good portion of your life studying chemtrails and you know, well, you have. So we have to go by. I can say yes. I think there's definitely a problem based on Bonnie's research. I can also and I can say there's definitely a problem based on other people's research about like Dennis has always told me about the World Trade Center and the assassinations. I think a lot of these things, though, are something that if I was the person or the group in charge, the 1%ers, as Dennis calls them, or the 1/10 of 1%ers, I would say that I would put this information out to really screw people up so they don't think about the problem of what I'm trying to do at hand. I mean, that's a way I would do it if I was a smart person and I wanted to manipulate people. I would try to say, wait a second, I'll give them a cul-de-sac to look at the World Trade Center or the Kennedy assassination and get some of the better minds to focus on that rather than to look at what's going on how I'm manipulating the population. That's my personal view.
Well, that's interesting. For me, those things are examples of how the population is manipulated.
Right.
Well, you know, the horrible irony of the duck and cover propaganda in this country is, you know, okay, all those people died in Japan when we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki because they didn't have desks to go under to protect themselves. I mean, how incredibly foolish and stupid.
Are you meaning to be funny?
Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's macabre that they would try.
It is macabre. Yes, thank you. Perfect.
Anyway.
So you want to hear my
Okay.
Storytelling now?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, we do, Bonnie.
I like stories.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to ask Dennis. Dennis, did you believe in that duck and cover stuff?
Did I believe in what?
The duck and cover, in case there's a nuclear attack, duck under the desk and cover your head.
Oh, I definitely believe that would not help at all.
But did you believe it then? But did you believe?
As a child.
But as a child, you believe.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love this country. We're in a country that has a Constitution, Bill of Rights. It started in a great way, but we're the only country in this world that sends nuclear bombs
Yes.
to another country.
That's a very
And,
important
when
point.
they say love thy neighbor, thou shalt not kill, it doesn't just mean men. I mean, we killed women and children, babies, over in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yes.
I think there was something wrong with that.
Oh my God. It was
I think
horrible.
there's something
This
wrong with
gen-
killing anything. Okay, let's get to a lighter topic and hear Bonnie's. They're going to be fun stories, I hope.
Well, mostly I'm recounting my 3 experiences with fairies. And
Are you talking about when you say fairy?
Just slapped me up the side of the head.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you think that's fun, all right. So here's my story, and there is an expert on fairies in Ireland who has written books and done a lot of research on fairies, and I'm talking about these little people with wings. Although in my experience, they're not necessarily so little, not so little as you see them in books, perhaps. But she was asked, this woman who is an expert on fairies, do you believe in fairies? And she said, no, but they are there.
That's interesting.
So my thought is not so much whether or not human beings believe in fairies, but do fairies believe in us? When I was a child, a 5-year-old, my mom bought me these beautiful wings, the kind of fairy wings that little girls could, with elastic straps, put over their shoulders and wear on their backs. They were beautiful. And a little plastic, fairly early plastic, I bet you, wand. So I had a wand and I had fairy wings. And this was kind of the way my mom nurtured me across my whole life as I was growing up. But the weird thing about my mom was that she gave me so many tools of liberation. And when she walked me to the edge of the cliff, she said, "Don't jump." So my mom was afraid of me taking leaps of fancy, and here are a few of them. In Ireland in 1988, I was visiting family. Actually, we were having a little family reunion there. And I was walking along a lane, a little Irish lane near the southwest bay water inlet of Ireland. And the beautiful fuchsia that is so prevalent, it seems almost wild, was hanging over the wall on one side of this lane, walking down toward the sea. And that fuchsia is purple and pink, for those who don't know it, an amazing plant. And we only ever have it here as a cultivated plant, as far as I know. But in Ireland, it seems to grow wild and natively, especially in the southwest, where the temperatures are very temperate. And as I looked on the left side of this lane, I noticed, looking through the underbrush of bushes and such, over to a kind of a wetland where I could see some yellow flag, which is yellow irises, what I'm sure was a fairy. And I had to kind of look through the branches and the twigs and tangles to see this, but I was pretty sure that I had seen a fairy. And I said in my mind, using my telepathic abilities, the aforementioned telepathic abilities, I said, would you come out and show yourself?
Mhm.
And what I heard most distinctly and rather rudely, I would like to say, is no. And I said, thinking again, won't you come out? Come out over here so I can see you. I've never seen a fairy. I'd really, really like to meet you, like to see you. And once again, this being on the other side of the thorny hedge said, no. And I said, why not? Won't you please? I'd love to meet you. Here I am in Ireland and everything. And this little being said to me very distinctly, though telepathically, you are not pure enough of heart. And I thought, crestfallen, I'm not pure enough of heart? But I spent such a large part of my life trying to be pure of heart, or to regain the pure of heartness of myself as a child. And to be swept up the head by this quasi-invisible, this kind of translucent being was demoralizing, of course. But I had to accept this admonition and being told that I was not pure enough of heart. So I thought, well, I will just continue to work on that, because I do want to be on this planet in my lifetime pure of heart. That was my first rather sad experience with a fairy. Back on this side of the Great Pond, in a few years subsequent to that family reunion in Ireland, I discovered a little tiny nodular bump in my breast that concerned me. And I went to a doctor who said, well, we could aspirate that little nodule in your breast. And I thought, I don't think so. At least that's not going to be my first endeavor to try to work with it. But I was very much afraid because, breast cancer is so prevalent, and I really choose not to be a victim of that particular way of leaving the planet or suffering under the in the care of the the medical industry. So I said, no, I think I'm going to postpone having you stick a needle in my breast, and perhaps even if it is cancerous, freeing the cells in that little cyst-like nodule, freeing them into the larger tissue of my breasts and my blood vessels. No, I'm not going to choose that as my first thought. I'm going to go home and talk to my friends who do Reiki and massage and other forms of what is called alternative medicine, which is really, for me, traditional ancient medicine. So I did. I left the doctor's office. I went home and I contacted my friends and tried to put together for myself a support, not only for my breasts, which I have loved for a long time and would like to keep intact if possible, but also to create for myself some kind of a ceremony. So living on a wildlife sanctuary, as I do, I decided to go off up the hill into the woods to an outcrop of beautiful shale, which is very common in this part of the world, shale and slate, and to find a place where I could create for myself a healing circle, or at least a place that I could begin to work with my fear, because fear is so powerful and so debilitating when it is allowed to run roughshod over a human being. So I did find a place, and I said, this is perfect. What I'm going to do is turn in a complete circle, 360 degrees. I started in the north, and I will find my way all the way around. And every way I turn, I will be looking to this beautiful place, this land, this sanctuary, for a sanctuary to my own soul, my own being, and see if I can learn things about myself that will help me to overcome fear. So facing in the north were two beautiful white pine trees, which I had always taken for granted, and they were clearing their throats, as if to say, you've always taken us for granted, and you may want to rethink that. Even though we are common, we are full of medicine, full of gentle medicine, and it is true that they are. So I thought, okay, thank you. I will try to take you more seriously and not assume that because something is common, like common sense, that it is empty of medicine and nourishment and ideas that could be beneficial to me or to all humans, I would think. Well, I worked my way around the circle, and when I was in the southeast of the circle, I noticed that in the next space I was about to enter, there were two fairies, possibly three. It's hard to tell for sure because they all kind of happened to jumble together. And again, they were not tiny or small. They were probably 2 feet tall, but they had wings, those beautiful, gossamer, rainbow-colored wings. And I mean, kind of what you would expect. And beautiful see-through organza kind of dresses, all of it very beautiful pastel. And they were kind of dancing, leaping off the ground there. They weren't really touching the ground, but I thought, great fairies. I'm going to soon be talking to fairies. And I thought, well, I have some concerns for them. So when I shifted to the next sector, there were the fairies, and I said, it's so lovely to see you. I said, I can help you. Of course, this is my tendency everywhere I turn in the world. And they said, we don't need your help. They were, again, very saucy, very sassy. And I said, yes, you do. You don't know it maybe because you just live in this one little piece of habitat, which we have tried to create for you or to sustain for you by creating a sanctuary for fairies and animals and trees and plants and all of you beings. That was what we were thinking about. So yes, I am here to help. And again, the fairies said to me intuitively, we don't need your help. Help yourself. could do that to help yourself. And they were again kind of snippy. And I said, but you don't know. I can see farther than you. I can see all around this planet. And even if you think that you don't need my help, you do, because you are losing your habitat. And again, they said to me, we do not need your help. If we run out of habitat here, we just go somewhere else. Now they're getting a little surly, I think, because I know that there's not an exhausted habitat all around this planet. It's preoccupied by humans for all kinds of endeavors and a lot of toxicity. And so I thought, okay, how am I going to explain to them that they do need my help? Well, what happened was I said to them, you don't know this, but the ocean is a space so wide that you couldn't possibly get across that. See, okay, you don't know about oceans, and I do. Well, they said, well, actually we do have a way to get across the ocean. We go by way of kind of a hands across America idea, ferries across the ocean. We hold hands, we never really touch the ocean. We are called foam ferries. We're on the foam. So we travel across, we can get anywhere around the planet just by holding hands and moving one at a time across. What they do at the end, I'm not sure. Maybe they just make a whip out of the last length of ferry. There they all are coming down quietly on another landscape. And I thought, okay, I don't know anything. And maybe that's a good thing to learn about yourself when you are doing a healing circle and trying to understand your own fears. Maybe you're afraid of things that, indeed, other beings are not. My second experience with fairies. Both of these, not very happy, but both highly informative about my own condition. Now, the third experience with fairies took place in, I was having a fairy walk here in the sanctuary. So we had lots of fairies invited, of course, by first inviting a girl who was famous in my circle of friends for building fairy houses, for knowing how to attract fairies. And her mother, who actually does fairy drawings for a large book and color book company. And so I invited them. They came. We went down to the bank, as they would say in England. We went down to the creek. And when we got to the creek, under the trying maple, this huge maple that has survived for over 200 years with 3 great stalks underneath, the creek had washed away and made something like rooms, you could say, or these overhangs, where the creek had washed out under the roots. So the roots became these beautiful arbors, which this young girl, this almost teenager, took to work gathering moss and flowers and twigs and grasses. Nothing to be sacrificed, by the way, only things that were already in upheaval, been already either died or been removed. So anything that was on the ground could be used if it had, you couldn't be cutting down trees, is what I'm saying. And she also said to me, what you need to do is get something kind of shiny in there, because they really love things that are shiny. Maybe a little Hershey's Kiss wrapped up in aluminum foil. And I thought, well, I would not give a Hershey's Kiss given what happened in Hershey, Pennsylvania, back on 3 Mile Island a long ago. I don't think I would consider that to be that kind of nourishment for a fairy or anyone. Chocolates are still contaminated. And the half-life of a meltdown. And maybe just I could just myself eat the chocolate, because, oh well, too late for me anyway. And I could just roll it out of the ball and it would still be shiny. I could put it in that little house that's created. She made a little table, a little bed, all out of these found natural materials. She had a little shell that she put water in. It was beautiful. It was lovely. Her work was done. And she had engaged with the enchantment and called it home. A day or 2 later, and before the actual fairy walk here in the honey and I took a walk down to the creek just to see how things might be developing since we had put out the invitation to the fairies. Well, we had, but this wonderful young woman had, young teenager almost had. And walking that down the path to the creek and to our expectations and our delighted expectations for what we would find, there were mushrooms I have never seen before, a whole carpet of green, deep green, forested green mushrooms I'd never seen before, nor since. Huge, bright orange, very phallic mushrooms, my God, emerged out of the earth. The whole pathway was now awakened and enchanted. And all the way down, there were these little treasures that we could see, maybe because we were engaging in the enchantment too. Down at the creek, looking to see what might have happened under the, in the fairy houses, under the roots of the old maple tree, I found a little gift. It was a fairy wing. All right, it looked a lot like a dragonfly wing. But even so, how would a single dragonfly wing have ever gotten to this place? Dragonflies don't hang out on this creek. They're over there by the wetland and the pond. How did this wing get into this house and set back far enough that it would have to have been intended? So we had to conclude, I think it was a necessary conclusion, that we had been given a gift to let us know that the fairies had been there. Oh, beautiful, beautiful wing with a little tiny wedding. And I picked it up, brought it out, held it up to my darling partner, and said, look what they left us. And in a moment, it was no longer between my fingers, but down on the ground. We looked for the longest time. We never found that wing. It could have only just floated to the ground. I have to believe that it became invisible after I'd gotten to see it. After we had seen it, yes, we could assure everybody on Friday when the fairy walk came that we had evidence of fairy occupation down by the creek. But what it really said to me is, no, you may not take this back to tell other people. You may not take this wing back. Nope. We showed it to you, and now it has disappeared because you may never have absolute proof of fairy. It used to be in that realm where we allow for the possibility and we enter the enchantment. You don't need proof.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Did you have fun?
I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
By the way, I've had experiences like that myself.
Yeah,
Tell me.
looking for screws that you dropped from working on a project.
I've had things disappear that were magical that disappeared. And I another interesting thing, which is, you notice that you're not supposed to get cell phones wet, but for some reason or other, they leap out of your hands into toilet bowls.
Or into the ocean.
Or into the ocean. No, those are very nice experiences.
Well, even though I was being knocked around a little bit during them, but yeah, that sounds they were all growth opportunities for me. You could call it access to knowledge.
Yeah.
I wonder, Dennis has been very quiet there, Dennis.
Well,
What do you think?
yeah, it probably.
Well, it's so interesting. I don't need to talk, but I'm really enjoying this show. It was very interesting. What I'd like to ask, though, is do you think that those creatures on this planet might think that they're just better than us because they're not ruining this planet? I mentioned something called climate change, global warming. So maybe they just feel like they're like one step above us because we're ruining this planet.
Well, I think that my experience would be that they do tend to have a sense of superiority, but it's just from having watched us for so long.
From a distance, from a
okay.
distance.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
that's interesting. Right.
They're the,
And Susan, I'm not going to call you a fairy. No.
why not?
I think you and Bonnie should both run, let's say, for governor, you know, when it comes up again. I mean, I really think after 43, you know, male presidents, I think our next president should be our first female. What do you think?
Well, not the one who's running.
There's more than one female running. It doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican.
I think
Oh,
Sarah,
that's right, yeah.
I think Sarah
Well,
I think,
I guess about Hillary Clinton then.
To give her praise.
The other side of the coin. But are you suggesting that Susan and I should run as partners?
Well, or, I mean, no, I mean, sure, one of you could run for president and the other one for vice president.
why don't
Sure.
Sarah,
But
how
do you
about,
think that we should bring as part of our platform a belief or an understanding or an experience, just to put a few words out there, of fairy? Do you think that would bring us a lot of votes?
Wow, that's a good question, because by the time it gets to mainstream media, I think that they'll just edit that and we'll be brainwashed.
They would make fun of us.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Because anything of this gentle nature that invites us to engage, this is my very strongly held point of view on this, we are being so turned away from nature. And it is either an enemy to us, or it is kind of an unnecessary obstacle to whatever we want to accomplish, or it is vital natural resources to whatever our ends might be. I don't think we're ever going to have the experience. I don't think unless children come into the hands or the experience of someone like Susan or me, they're never going to have a chance to enter the enchantment,
well,
because they have been trained to believe the enchantment is evil. I don't actually have a concept for evil. I only have a concept for mental illness, what I consider mental illness, so evil doesn't really relate to anything for me. But if our children are having this stolen from them, if they're not having the opportunity to allow their understanding of what else invisible or partially visible being to share this planet with us, if that is all being marginalized and considered ridiculous, then we are losing one of the strongholds for keeping our environment whole.
I want to thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Dennis, Susan, everybody who's listening.
Dennis.
It all comes down to energy. Fossil fuel affects our lives and ripples on our lake. Cars and farms and factories and trucks. Supplies go down and prices soar, our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news of energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.